This meeting of the City of Socorro's Historic Landmark Commission meeting is set to begin. Due to the ongoing threat to public health in the City of Socorro, Texas Council and Commissions will be conducting a virtual meeting broadcasted by phone and live streaming services from council chambers located at 816 North Rio Vista Road, Socorro, Texas 79927, to practice social distancing and limit the number of people physically present at one time. There will be no physical access to the location mentioned above. We do ask everyone to silence their electronics to avoid any sound interruptions. No disruptive behavior or outbursts will be tolerated, and violators are subject to call disconnection and possible prosecution. Anyone who has signed up to speak or present will be called upon by the presiding officer to speak during public comment or in their specific agenda item in accordance with Government Code 551.042. La reunión de Comisión de Propiedades Históricos de la Ciudad de Socorro está por empezar. Por el problema de salud pública, en curso en Concilio y las comisiones de la Ciudad de Socorro, Texas, transmitirá su reunión por teléfono y servicios de transmisión en vivo desde la sala de Concilio, localizada en 860 Norte Rio Vista Road, Socorro, Texas, 79927. Para practicar el distanciamiento social y limitar el número de personas físicamente presentes, no habrá acceso físico a la ubicación mencionada anteriormente. Le pedimos a todos que silencien su equipo electrónico para evitar interrupciones de sonido. No se va a tolerar ningún tipo de comportamiento perjudicial o revoltoso. Quien no siga estas reglas, su llamada será desconectada y puede ser infraccionado. A quien se haya apuntado para hablar o presentar será anunciado por el oficial conduciendo la reunión para hablar durante los comentarios públicos o sobre su tema específico de la agenda, de acuerdo con el Código de Gobierno 551.042.
I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:14 p.m.
Establishment of quorum, we have 6 members present. We have Ms. Kathy Apodaca, Ms. Marty Loya, Mr. Alfredo Gonzalez, Mr. David Estrada, Mr. Gilbert Lujan, and Mr. Ricardo Rocha. Line item number 3, excuse absent members. Ms. Mary Bettis was not able to make it. Can I get a motion to excuse?
I'll make a motion to excuse Mrs. Bettis.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion to excuse by Kathy and second by Ms. Marty. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right, Ms. Kathy Apodaca,
Yes.
Ms. Marty Loya,
Yes.
Mr. Alfredo Gonzalez, Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Lujan,
Yes.
and Mr. Ricardo Rocha.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carried. Line item number 4, we do not have anyone signed up for open forum. Okay, we will move to line item number 5, consider and take action on the approval of meeting minutes for the Wednesday, February the 10th Historical Landmark Commission meeting.
I make a motion to accept.
I second that motion.
All right, Ms. Kathy Apodaca,
Yes.
Ms. Marty Loya,
Yes.
Mr. Alfredo Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. David Estrada,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert Lujan,
Yes.
and Mr. Ricardo Rocha.
He said yes, but you couldn't hear him.
Mr. Rocha, you're muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Line item number 6, consider and take action on the certificate of appropriateness for a porch addition at the property located at 11745 Socorro Road.
Good evening and afternoon, Commissioners. Victor Reta, Historic Preservation Officer for the City of Socorro. Before you, we do have a notice of violation for the property located at 11745 Socorro Road. I do want to let the commissioners know that the applicants are on the line. Mr. and Mrs. Oropesa is on the phone. What ended up happening is they did construct a porch in front of their property without a permit. I'm going to ask Rosie if she'll allow me to share my screen so that way I can go ahead and share what we're going to be looking at. This is the applicant that we are discussing. They have constructed a porch in front of their house, as I mentioned. It is a wooden porch. They are looking to go ahead and finish the porch. The house, luckily, is not a historical registered landmark, so not much damage has occurred to the home other than a residential property within the historical district. They were unaware that they needed to pull a permit, they stated, and since then have complied by sending us photos of the actual property. It is a wooden porch. As I mentioned, they did not finish. There are still holes in it with electricity kind of poking through, and that is currently what it looks like from the front and from under the underview as well. They are looking to go ahead and paint the property one seamless flawless color, which would be approved through the historical landmark choices. And the applicant has been on the agenda for April, so we do thank them for their patience in us resolving the issue. I'm happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have, or you can also speak to the applicant on the line to answer any of your questions as well.
So Victor, the porch has already been added, that's correct?
Correct. Most of the actual physical construction of what is to be deemed a porch has been done. Once code enforcement caught that there was no permit or inspections that had been filed, pulled, or any COA applications with HLC, they did cite them with a notice of violation. So since then, work has stopped. There was no damage to the actual dwelling or residential dwelling. There was nothing that was demolished before then. They're looking to just add the porch to the front yard as enjoyment for them and the homeowners. What staff is suggesting is to follow the normal NOV procedures under the planning and zoning guidelines and have the applicant pay any and all fines that are normally associated with this violation, and then follow the typical process for notice of violations. Normally, they would be sent to court within 30 days. However, since we haven't had quorum, that has delayed the process, so they haven't been sent to court. And they've been given an opportunity to go ahead and rectify the issue through the HLC before, so that way they can go ahead and apply for the physical permit with planning and zoning and follow the normal process that way.
And they understand the guidelines?
Yes, we've explained to them not only just the historical guidelines, but also the significance of construction, just in case, God forbid, anything were to happen, that they would need to have, construction processes inspected, permitted, and then everything on file, so that way the city is aware of any earthwork, groundwork, or construction that takes place within the area. Unfortunately, they weren't knowledgeable about the district, the guidelines, or the permitting process prior to the start of the project, they explained. However, since they've been they've been tagged by code enforcement, they've been ahead and brought it up to speed on our process and procedures.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. This is Ricardo Rocha. I'm one of the new commissioners here with you guys. Just a quick recap on this property. The reason that it's coming for us is because it lands within the historical boundaries of the city.
Yes, sir. So the property is located along Socorro Road. The entire roadway of Socorro is within the historical district. That does go through El Paso, Socorro, and San Elizario. There are certain advantages to owning a historical home, one of which is normally all your permits are free of charge as an economic incentive, as long as they are done correctly through a normal process and procedure of requesting an HLC application for work and then it going through the planning and zoning process and so forth with inspections if need be. Typically, the HLC commissioners review aesthetics, including colors, materials, and design standards. We have no formal jurisdiction over planning and zoning or whether or not how we can dictate someone to like place their home. We do have jurisdiction over the overall aesthetic and guidelines to ornamental finishes such as colors, materials, and design. And that would be for commercial and residential.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, I have a question.
Is that David?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So this porch faces Socorro Road. This is the front of the home.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Right now, what you're looking at is the front view. They are on a corner lot, so there was no way that you would miss it. They do have a chain link fence, so you can actually see it from the street on both sides.
Okay, so as you're driving or passing this property, you're driving down Socorro Road. This is what you can see.
You cut off there at the end. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
So as you're driving down Socorro Road, this is completely visible from the road.
Yes,
Socorro
sir.
Road.
Yes, sir, that's correct. I would like to make the notation that the homes around it aren't necessarily in a mission style aesthetic, so it wouldn't be something that would stick out like a sore thumb. However, it was something that was new that was added, and that's kind of what code enforcement caught on to, was the fact that there was something new being constructed without a permit, and that's how it got alerted to our office.
I don't think it conforms with the aesthetics that we're looking for.
Correct. So the design can change. The materials, being the wood, are acceptable under the guidelines. If you would want them to change the design or add the design to maybe incorporate a mission hacienda style aesthetic to the top, maybe like a crowning, that's something that you could add or request, and that way they can come back and give you new guidelines or new design guidelines that they would want to do. That's certainly within the scope of jurisdiction within the HLC.
What about the columns that we're looking at? Do they fall within the existing aesthetic guideline?
Since the wrought iron is ornamental, it would fall under an appropriate use. You can request that they cover them up, just because the little curlings of the actual wrought iron aren't necessarily the same time period as the mission aesthetic. That's something that's also under your purview. You can request a different one. Typically what's done, for example, and I always use Tito's example, because he does have metal work mixed in with rock wall, is they're usually horizontal or vertical lines. They're very kind of clean and not necessarily decorative. That's something that could also be acceptable and is a good example that we have on file that we can share with them.
Have they spoken? I'm trying to see here on the certificate that that they submitted. Have they gone on and also tell you like what kind of colors they would be using, or was it just going to be plain wood, exposed plain wood?
So we do have already pre-approved choices that they can choose from. They would be actually coloring it the same color as the house, which is kind of right now in that lighting. I know it's not the best because it was sunset, but it is currently an approved color based on the color choices in the HLC. If it's something that they would like to change, they would have to certainly let us know before they do so. Ahorita en la línea está el señor y señora Oropesa. No sé si ustedes gustan hablar a los comisiones sobre el proyecto, sobre las cosas que quieren ver hacer con la casa, la propiedad, o hablar segundo o cosa de su residencia.
I'm sorry, it's Orozco, not Oropesa. And I don't know if this whole conversation was in English. It's actually my father's property. And I don't know if you have a translator you want to translate. Because, well, he didn't hear the entirety of the conversation, so if it's all right with me standing in on his behalf.
You're more than welcome to do so. Typically, what we do is we'll discuss, and then I'll go ahead and translate for the applicant before we make any ruling, just to go ahead and make sure that both parties are understood of what's going on. So at this point,
Yes, sir.
if your dad or your mom would want to discuss the item or ask any questions, they're more than welcome to do so. If you would like to act on their behalf, you're also able to do so. It would just be up to you guys.
Okay. Están preguntando van a requerir que haga unos cambios a la estructura porque no es el estilo misión que pide lo que sí, de qué material usar, qué tipo de material y el estilo, la arquitectura, meterle el estilo, pues sí, el mission style que pide por estando en la Socorro, en la calle Socorro. No tiene preguntas o algo que les quiera preguntar. Ellos le van a decir. Pues ya después le hablan, usted va para allá a verle, a preguntarles. ¿Está bien con eso? Sí. No, he's okay with what you guys are going to decide on.
Okay,
the case.
and just let him know that based on whatever decision the commissioners make, we'll go ahead and invite him to our office to go ahead and sit down with him and advise him as best as we can with examples, physical examples, whether they're photos, whether they're renderings, drawings of what their commission's asking for, so that way we can go ahead and better help him to go ahead and finish his project.
Yeah, that's what he was just worried about now. How is he going to know as to what you guys are going to ask for? But I told him you guys would give him an idea
No, yes, definitely.
and help him through this.
No, yeah, definitely. Based on what the commission decides today, we would go ahead and contact him, and I would sit down with your dad and, just answer any questions. Number one, make sure he understands what's being asked and provide him examples of how he can go ahead and comply with the design guidelines to go ahead and finish his project. Or if there's something that the commissioners are requesting, how he can go ahead and get that and then come back, just depending on how the commission decides.
Okay.
Victor, can we go ahead and make a motion to approve with the comments that Ricardo made regarding the aesthetics and what needs to be changed? Pending on that?
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. We have a motion made by Marty to go ahead and get the design of the porch and the columns matched to the design guidelines of the district. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
And that would be a motion to approve with those stipulations?
Correct.
Could I get a second?
I second that motion. This is Gilbert.
We have a motion to approve. Ms. Kathy Apodaca,
Yes.
Ms. Marty Loya,
Yes.
Mr. Alfredo Gonzalez, Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. David Estrada,
I'm gonna say no. Let me explain why. I think we should table it until he provides a proposal or proposed drawings of what he's thinking of doing. I think he should provide a more aesthetic, more hacienda style, more of what we're looking for. But I think we should table it and look look at it once he provides drawings. I'm personally looking for more of a hacienda style, maybe a parapet, and I'm looking for something on the columns. I don't think the columns are aesthetic as to what we're looking for. So that I'm gonna say no.
Mr. Rocha?
Yes.
Did you call Tito?
Mr. Gilbert Lujan?
Yes. Yes.
All right, thank you. Motion carried.
Okay.
Line item number 7, consider.
Give me 1 second. Mr. Roscoe, we'll go ahead and contact you tomorrow to go ahead and go over all the documentation that was discussed as well as the requests. And then we'll go ahead and be able to set you up to answer anything that you might be pending or assist you with the process.
Thank you very much. I'll let him know, and he'll be expecting your call.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you very much. Can we be excused from the meeting?
I'm sorry?
Can we be excused from the meeting?
Yes, if you would like to be excused, you're more than welcome to. If you want to stay, we also invite you to stay if you'd like, but it's your choice. But as far as the rest of the meeting,
no,
it wouldn't
we'll
concern
be-
your property
I'm sorry.
anymore.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Line item number 7, consider and take action on the certificate of appropriateness for plumbing work to the municipal property located at 860 North Rio Vista Road.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Victor Reta, Historic Preservation Officer for the City of Socorro. Before you is a request to do some modification work for plumbing right here in this property that is in the courthouse. Currently, our office in Planning and Zoning is expanding. We've added more staff, and so they want to go ahead and just add some plumbing work to go ahead and make it a little bit more usable for them. They are going to repair some sink lines to go ahead and create a break room, and then the old break room is going to get modified for office space. Nothing's going to be physically changed to the structure of the property. Nothing's going to get repainted or demolished. It would be using our adaptive reuse approach, which is what we're doing for the entire quadrangle. And it would be very minimal changes that will be done to the actual wall. We do need to just run some plumbing in there to go ahead and modify it. None of the walls are going to be destroyed or torn down. What they are actually looking to do is remodify it so that way it would be a little bit more inhabitable for the office space and for the staff there. So that is what this request is for.
Victor, is that plumbing coming from the outside in, or is it just being rerouted internally?
Both. So they're actually looking at the plumbing lines and they need to get a little bit of repair. They're a little outdated, and so they wanted to go ahead and do some preventive maintenance as well while they were doing the work to go ahead and just make sure that there's no incidents while they're doing other work that, God forbid, there was a leak or a break, that it would cause any damage. So they want to go ahead and be proactive and just look at those lines outside as well as inside.
So there won't be additional pipes like the view that we're looking at right now, where we would see additional pipes around that area?
No, so right here in this back corner is where they're going to be doing most of the work, and it would be going around the building to go ahead and just make sure that they have the access to that. They will probably be doing some earthwork here to dig up the line, just to double check that everything's running smoothly, but nothing physically done to the actual property other than what is strictly needed. And I would make sure that if anything gets changed in that scope of work, that we bring it to the commission before they go ahead and do that. But this would be a bit. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That was going to be my next question. If anything is found while they go in there, these old buildings, sometimes you find other work that needs to be done. What would happen?
Yes, if it goes anything that would affect the actual building, we would definitely bring it back to the commission. Our concern is obviously with water, just the damage that it can do. So we want to make sure that we're doing anything possible to prevent that from happening. If anything does need to get changed other than this part of the building, which is what we're requesting, we would definitely bring that back to the commission to go ahead and get guidance on that. And I'll be sure that if anything does come up, that we're aware of it, we document it, and then we go ahead and report it as needed to the state since it's part of the quadrangle as well.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve.
That was
I
Mr.
second.
Estrada.
Yes.
I second it.
Okay, thank you, Marty. Okay, Ms. Kathy Apodaca,
Yes.
Ms. Marty Loya,
Yes.
Mr. Alfredo Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. David Estrada,
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert Lujan,
Yes.
and Mr. Ricardo Rocha.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Line item number 8, I'm sorry, is the same as line item number 7.
I did a clerical mistake and I duplicated the line item. I apologize, everyone.
Could we get a motion to delete the item? Remove?
I make a motion to remove the item. The duplicate.
Thank you, Marty.
Second.
Thank you. And that was that Mr. Estrada?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Right, Ms. Kathy Apodaca,
Yes.
Ms. Marty Loya,
Yes.
Mr. Alfredo Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. David Estrada,
Yes.
and Mr. Ricardo Rocha.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Did you count Tito? Did you call in Tito?
Mr. Lujan?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you. Motion carried. Line item number 9, consider and take action on the certificate of appropriateness for plumbing, electrical, and construction work to the municipal property located at 800 North Rio Vista Road.
So let me move my map a little bit. So this, what you're seeing before you, used to be our Rio Vista substation for our police department. However, they now have received a new building and are no longer housing this building. And therefore, part of administration's plan was making it the code enforcement's office. Similar to what we're doing in planning and zoning as the staff is growing, we needed to go ahead and look at this building. One of the things that we did find is that the electrical work needs a little bit of repair, as well as the plumbing, to go ahead and create a men's and women's restroom. Currently, there's only one restroom, so they wanted to go ahead and update that by using the space that's already in there. They're not going to be demolishing walls or tearing anything down. This would be more of a different layout. They'd be adding some partitions to go ahead and create office space. This is also going to be the new home for our information technology department, who's also growing. They did add new staff there. So the building is going to be a great example of a reuse for a historical preservation project. Follows the same approach to the quadrangle for adapted reuse. We're going to go ahead and make sure that we use everything possible to make sure that the building is completely part of the aesthetic and the historical piece. And we're going to make sure that we take care and properly apply all the historical guidelines that the Secretary of Interior does request of us. But that is what we're looking to do here today, is plumbing, electrical, and then the addition of some constructed partitions for the office space.
Do you foresee any exterior work being done?
I could foresee like maybe some patches. If you're looking at your screen right here, there might be a little bit damage that's just been done by some neglected work, especially right here, like where the water was running off by the air conditioner. That's just something that we can go ahead and look at updating while they're out there. One of the concerns is right here, this pipe that's kind of exposed. That was one of the reasons why we brought it to the commission's attention for approval, was just to go ahead and look at it and maintenance it, and then that pipe does run parallel to the building. So we want to make sure that everything's running great there because this is the line that runs into the plumbing. We may even look at putting a protective barrier around it just in case a vehicle were to go over it. That's something that we've done at other sites. Completely aesthetic, that wouldn't be a part of the property. The concern definitely though is if this were to break and it were leak in the property, the damage that it could do. And then I'd also request that they kind of paint it all the same color. As you can tell, there's like 3 different shades. Some of it is just dirt on white to make it a little dirty. But the city would do its due diligence to go ahead and restore it to make it one cohesive piece.
I had a quick question. Which department is going to be the one that's going to be moving into that building?
So currently we have 2 that are going to move in there, code enforcement and information technology.
Okay. And then they used to be located at in the building behind?
Yes, a part of them, yes. Part of them were in a completely different building. One of them was being housed with police, and that department is growing pretty expansively. So that's why we're going ahead and reusing this building for 2 different departments.
So I'm looking at the Historical Landmark Commission application for certificate of appropriateness for this address. It says that for work requested, it's asking for alterations with like materials.
So what that means is that if, for example, there was wood that was used or lumber that's used in the construction of a building, we would use the same materials or like it. We wouldn't say replace something and go from cement work to woodwork or vice versa. We want to keep the integrity of the historical property intact and do our due diligence to make sure that we use a historical preservation approach, which in this case would be adaptive reuse. We're getting a historical building and adapting it for a different use that it was intended. Originally, this was part of the farm owner's property based on the Port Farm for the Rio Vista complex, which then got turned into different uses. At one point, it was also animal control for the sheriff. Then it was a substation, and now we're looking to make it the home for 2 different municipal offices. But like-minded materials would just mean that we wouldn't transform the space in terms of a design or construction aesthetic, which would go beyond what it looks like now. If there was any exterior construction work to change the facade of the building, that would be something that would be an entirely different agenda item, which we would need the the commission's approval for in order to go ahead and do that, since it is a protected site within the state register and also part of a state antiquities landmark. We have a little bit more designation. So properties that are on the register have just a different level of protections. We want to make sure that we go about it in a way that this Texas Historical Commission approves of it, just to make sure that we're not damaging the property and treating it appropriately.
So my next and final question is, according with the shingles, I guess, that's being used on these, I noticed that it's a different color as the ones behind it. Is that something that was originally on that? Obviously, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's got changed throughout the time, but is there is that something that can, is there a possibility to get like a same color as the buildings behind it, kind of give it that more aesthetic group feel with all those buildings around? I've passed there a couple of times, and kind of that dark brown kind of does stick out a lot when you look at the other buildings behind it.
Right, in contrast, and you hit the nail on the head. You can kind of tell when the roofs are done based on the colors. That's kind of like how we've all known. Unfortunately, when they did the RVS substation, the shingle that was used, the color wasn't available for the other buildings. Planning and zoning got their roof done when Rio Vista got their new roof. That's kind of why those 2 are the same. And moving forward, if there is roofing work that would need to occur, that would be exterior major alterations, we would include it to be the same. If that's, I'm not sure if the city has the budget for that. We can request them to look into it, but that's not something that that department or administration has requested at this time. But it's definitely something that could be looked into.
Victor, with IT moving into this facility, has anyone done an assessment? I'm assuming since it is IT, there's going to be networking, cables, servers, those types of things. Has anyone looked at what's going to be required for this building for IT to move in there?
So the site has been visited by IT, code enforcement, as well as the building official. Without giving too much of our internal procedures away, I do know that IT and security are one of the main concerns for our IT director. We do actually have servers scattered throughout different places to kind of keep them secure and locked up. As far as what would go on in this department, power-wise, that was a concern, so that's kind of why we did include that in the certificate of appropriateness to kind of update the electrical power that's going to be used. But nothing really from maintenance to IT to code enforcement to the building official was really alarming. They actually thought it would be a really unique fit and it would be a great way to use the space, but they were 100% saying that nothing really monumental would be needed in order for them to be in this department or in this building, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm glad that was done. Okay,
Just for the record, they also did test for asbestos, so we took care of that with our building official too.
okay. I make a motion to approve.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Ms. Kathy Apodaca?
Yes.
Ms. Marty Loya?
Yes.
Mr. Alfredo Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. David Estrada?
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert Lujan?
Yes.
And Mr. Ricardo Rocha?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried. Line item number 10 is open for questions or comments from commissioners regarding current commission efforts and projects.
So first and foremost, I'd like to start off item number 10 by welcoming our newest commissioner, Mr. Ricardo Rocha. Welcome to the team. We're really excited to have you here. I'm not sure if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself. I was able to kind of read your application, so I know a little bit about your background, but I'm not sure if you want to share that with the commissioners and kind of like say why you wanted to apply.
Sure, yes. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Ricardo Rocha. Been a lifelong resident of Socorro. My family moved back here in 1985 when I was 2 years old. And I've made Socorro my home ever since. Graduate of Socorro High School. And we left to the Navy for a couple years, came back to the great city of Socorro, and for my love of history, I graduated from UTEP with the history degree and secondary education. So I did teach high school history for a while. And now I'm living here in Socorro with a family business and having this great opportunity to work with our fellow residents in order to keep Socorro the historical city that it is.
Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
We're happy.
Yeah,
to have
welcome.
you. And just so I can go ahead and explain the commission. So Ms. Capiodaca is our chair and Ms. Marty Loya is our vice chair. I do have a couple of announcements. Number one is that City Council is approving the position of an Economic Development Coordinator. This is something that the Historical Commission has been asking for a while, so we've been championing for this for a really long time and looking at someone that can kind of help us market and work with the businesses along Socorro Road. That would be someone that kind of maybe creates a Chamber of Commerce, that can help us coordinate relief efforts, especially right now through the COVID era. They wouldn't just be working in the district, they'd be working throughout the city. But for us, I know that's something that we've been wanting to do for a very long time, so we're really excited about that. We've been looking at different avenues and how to promote, and so based on some of the New American Rescue funds that are available, they are tackling heritage and tourism, so that would be really, really exciting for us to tap into. We are really excited to see the candidate pool that we can get for this application of position, so it would be something that is hugely, hugely impactful to everyone on the commission that is business owner. So we're really excited about that. Secondly would be our NHL nomination, our National Historical Landmark nomination for the Rio Vista Quadrangle was sent to the National Park Service. It was actually supposed to take place on Tuesday. However, they postponed that meeting, so now we're looking either at a July to possibly a September date. This would be something that, if approved, we would have our own property that is similar to the Alamo, as well as the Empire State Building and Alcatraz. So we're really, really excited about that. We've been able to showcase Rio Vista for a handful of different presentations and opportunities, but something of this nature would really elevate that. To go along with that, I also want to announce that the City of Socorro was awarded another Texas Historical Commission's grant to do a virtual guided tour of the Rio Vista site. That's something that's going to be put onto our new website, and it's something that's been done by the Smithsonian. So we're really, really grateful that we were able to go ahead and get the funding. Alejandra, our grants coordinator and administrator, was awesome in securing that funding for us. So that's going to be another project that's getting done. We also have the capital improvement project for the Rio Vista site. That is currently in engineering and planning. Council did award the contract to Trenner HL, a historical preservation firm that has a lot of experience. It was really well reviewed. We did touch base with the state, the Texas Historical Commission based out of Austin, to kind of get their feedback. So that was something that they were really impressed that they were looking at our site to go ahead and review and make a case study for us. So a lot of great things happening. I do have 2 bits of news that are very new. I know for the longest time we've talked about the back 3 buildings that are behind Rio Vista. They've been owned by Texas A&M. And last Friday, we did have a Zoom call with them, and they were aware of our National Historical Landmark designation prospects. They did provide us with a letter of support previously to that, and on Friday, they spoke with the chancellor, and they're going to be gifting us those 3 buildings. So all the buildings on the historical Rio Vista complex will be owned by the city of Socorro relatively soon. So that's really exciting, and we're really happy to see that happen. Lastly, we are going to get interviewed on Friday by KTSM. Natasia Paloma is going to be doing a special report on historical landmarks in the city, and Rio Vista was chosen as a site. So that'll be airing later on this month. So those are just a little of the things that the Historical Preservation Office has been doing. We're aware of all the things that have been happening with COVID, and we're in the process of reopening soon. So we're really looking forward to kind of getting back to normal and meeting our constituents and helping with events, and maybe even planning a farmer's market, especially with that economic development coordinator position. So those are the things that right now the city's been moving and actively progressing on.
That's wonderful.
I'm not sure
Nice.
if anybody has any comments or questions.
I had just a quick question. I don't know if this has been brought up in the commission in previous meetings, and I don't know what type of role we would take into this. But looking into, as we all know, that Socorro High School is being demolished, it's gonna create a wonderful new top of the line, state of the art school. But I've heard a lot of comments from a couple of residents, people that have graduated from there, as far as if there is anything that could be kept or something from the school in order to preserve some sort of history. A lot of people think, when people are thinking about Socorro, they start thinking about the Mission, the Bracero area. But at the same time, I feel like we can, create future history. That was the first high school that was here in Socorro back in the early in the 60s. So is there something, or what would be, I don't know, we're throwing out ideas. Is that something that we would have to speak to the district?
So depending on what you would be looking to do, definitely we'd have to speak to the district. Mr. Gonzalez, Alfredo Gonzalez, is one of our teachers at the high school, so I'm not sure if he can maybe provide some more communication on that, or find out if the district's doing anything to preserve a piece of the school. That's something that definitely we can look into. I'm pretty sure Fred might know more than I do regarding SIC activity at the high school. I'm not sure if you've heard of anything, Mr. Gonzalez, regarding saving a part of the school.
And I'm not necessarily saving, part of the school, but I'm more thinking about the, I'd say like the outside, keeping portions of that wall, and kind of I'm thinking more like once the new building's constructed, using one, a corner of the new school to just kind of have that rock wall, like a little piece of it with a rock wall, with something identifying that used to be the original outer wall of the school. Something like nothing. I'm not talking about something major that would cause any halt into the construction, or cause traffic to be moved or anything like that. But I guess just some sort of piece that kind of just would signify the previous existence of that previous structure.
I think one of the things that could be done there is make sure that any pictures are collected that represent what the school was at the time. Um, I think probably trying to preserve a wall would interfere or could interfere with what the architectures have already, done and planned for. But I think pictures or any artifacts that belong to the school, make sure that all of those get reserved somewhere.
Well, as far as I know, they're not tearing everything down. Like for example, the pit itself, the newer gym that we call the pit is gonna stand. It's just gonna be gutted out, but the wall's gonna be the same. The theaters will be redone inside, but the building will remain. So there will be pieces of the actual building that will remain. As far as artifacts, if you walk into our school, I think the most protected and the most seen is the state championship. So that's not going to go away. We are collecting the things that are hung up on the walls, and we're not throwing them away. So we are. I'm not sure how they're going to be transferred or where they're going to be, but I know they're not throwing anything away. They're not throwing away pieces, things that the way the building looked before. There's a huge portrait in the principal's office of the original school, the way it looked before everything was added on. So yeah, it's not going to be completely gone. It's not going to be completely torn away or torn down. So as far as the actual what we're going to do with all that other stuff, I guess when we move back to the new building, I guess they'll decide then. But there's several, like half the school will be in the new building come August, which is very exciting for our kids. Our technology is going to be just as good as Pebble Hills and all these other brand new schools. So that's what we were lacking, and that's what our kids were lacking. And I'm very glad we're going to get, finally, Socorro's going to get the school they deserve, because we've been very far behind all the other schools in the district.
Maybe one of the things that we could do to branch off of the thoughts that Mr. Rocha had was maybe if they kept one of the original theater chairs, like to kind of like showcase that this was part of the original theater. We could always like maybe ask and see what they say.
I think we can. I mean, if we can throw ideas around, we can write down these ideas, see what it is that we can do, or even something that even the city itself we can do off over here to the side and kind of do something to kind of commemorate the old Socorro High School. I think that's something that as the months come by, there's some ideas that we can throw around and see what would work best.
Awesome.
Are there any other comments? Right, we will be moving to line item number 11. It's meeting adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
Okay. The time is 7:01, and we have a motion by Marty and second by Mr. Rocha. Ms. Kathy Apodaca?
Yes.
Ms. Marty Loya?
Yes.
Mr. Alfredo Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. David Estrada?
Yes.
Mr. Gilbert Lujan?
Yes.
And Mr. Ricardo Rocha?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe.
Thank
Have a good
you.
week.
Thank you very much, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Hope to see you
Thank you.
soon.